Hello and welcome back to Serendipity Intended. My name is Tracy Ann and I am so glad you are here. It is time for another day of the Junk Journal July 2026 challenge. And so let's go ahead and get started with our play today. And this very much is play. So let me grab my prompt here. And it is day 9. And that means our prompt is coin. And I have to admit, that one gave me a little bit of pause. And then I remembered in my stash, I had this, which I hope you can see it. It is the wrapper from a chocolate coin that I saved because I thought it would come in handy one day. And so this is the foundation for my prompt today, the prompt of coin. So I did find a spot in my journal for that. Switching back, I thought it would be fun to use this little teeny tiny itty bitty page for the prompt. And I am going to zoom in just a little bit because the page is so small, just so you can see that. And let me go ahead and, of course, the problem with zooming in is that everything is so much bigger, including my hands. So if I do that, I'm sorry. So just this little teeny tiny page is what I'm going to use. And I'm taking my color inspiration from this page. And that's largely because this is for something else. But you can see this blue here kind of works with this. So in terms of the layering, I think using these colors will make sense. I also really am sort of fond of these letters and the way they look, sort of that real strong black on white kind of contrast. So I'm going to keep that in mind. I have these stamps here that I may use because they sort of fit to me with those. So I'm gonna set those aside right here. And I also, in addition to my coin, I just grabbed some stuff. Most of this was in my little bowl of scraps, or it was already in my little pile of things to use for the journal. So I had this little bit of paper that I think was from some food. You know, sometimes they put your food in a basket. This was the edge of that. And I thought maybe the letters, again, might work well. This little scrap that, again, sort of that black on white feeling. I had this remnant. This is actually from an old scarf that I thought color-wise was really interesting. I have a bit of the tea bag that I used on an earlier prompt, and I like repeating materials in a journal. I think it adds a little bit of cohesion to the page. So I thought maybe I could use this because, again, color-wise, this sort of made sense. And I was thinking with this really sort of shiny metallic thing that doing some different textures might also be interesting. And I also had this butterfly, which I thought color-wise worked well here. And I also thought it was interesting with the green and the silver. So kind of going with a green and gray and silver and black color scheme, which is not a typical color scheme for me. So I'm sort of excited to see how this turns out. And then out of my sorry stash, I found this. I thought it was beautiful. It's gray. It's got some pattern to it that also could read as a little bit of texture. So I think I'm going to try and include this as well. So those are my bits and pieces. And before I get started though, what I do want to do, the one edge of this page is actually a little bit of the white. I don't know why I didn't trim that off to begin with, but I'm gonna just use some ink to distress the edge a little bit. So this is a Distress Oxide Vintage Photo. I'm not gonna water activate it, but I am gonna use it because I want the color that it creates for the edge of this page, because I think that'll add some definition and texture. It'll also help this page kind of pop against what's behind it, because what's behind it will be somewhat dark. And then also I want to use this to help mute some of that white edge that is just there. So I'll just go ahead and make that a little bit uneven. I think that works, just to kind of help that page pop a little bit. Now, I thought I could probably use this as background, and I think I want to keep this line, and I also think I want this to hang over the edge a little bit. So I do want to tear, but I don't want to have to worry about it too much. So I'm just going to use my decal edge here and kind of tear that off like so, and that can sit there. And then this bottom edge I will, because I've got a little bit more margin for error here. Okay, so I think that'll be a nice first layer. And go ahead and grab my little glue mat here. So definitely my glue stick is enough for this. I'm not gonna go around the edges with this because, again, I'm wanting some texture. So I'm going to let the edges create some texture, and then I'm also gonna crumple it a bit. So it's not gonna lay flat, and there's also gonna be some texture in the paper. So there's that. And then I definitely want to use some of this green. And again, let it, I don't like the way that this is curling though. So I may go ahead and trim that off, save that for something else. And then I love the threads here, some more of that texture. And I'm definitely going to leave that, and I'm gonna intentionally cut this a little bit jaggedy, again, to get some of that texture in place. All right, and then I want this tea bag. And again, I do think I want, well, that wasn't quite what I had in mind, but okay. Maybe here or that way. I don't want to totally lose the letters. Let me put, no. Maybe like so. And then take a little bit of the sari silk and tear that off. Ooh, love the strings all that gorgeous texture. Maybe like so. Okay. Then I don't think I want a lot of this. Maybe just the skinniest. So I find that the way that you tear your paper can really make a difference, because like if I were to tear it this way and pull this side up, then this side is going to get a little bit of the sort of inside paper and have a little bit more of a textured edge. See if I can show you what I mean. So it might be hard to see, but you see how here I can see a little bit of the underneath edge, whereas here I just have the jaggedy edge, but the texture is just the solid piece. So you can kind of play with how you tear things and end up with a little bit different of a look. Okay, so I do think that that is kind of super interesting there. And then our butterfly on top. Yeah, I think we're close enough that we can kind of start gluing things down, and we can tweak it as we go. So because I am using some fabric pieces, I'm going to use my Fabri-Tac, probably just to glue everything down, since it's now what I have out and in my hands. And yeah, so we'll just kind of go from there. So I'm gonna, let's see, slide this over kind of as is, and then work on gluing. So I think, because I don't want to adhere a ton down. I want to let this be loose because I feel like the unglued edge would also create some texture. So I'm gonna just put the smallest amount of glue, just enough to hold it, and I'm gonna go ahead and twist that. Not that you'll actually see it, but it'll help this come up and not be quite so even. Okay, and then our next layer is going to be this. I think we'll put that right, put a nice little bit of glue right there and let that exist. Okay, and then our next, I think, is going to be here. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and again, I'll put a little glue. This is not precise. One, because I don't want it to feel rigid. I want it to feel a little bit as though it sort of got thrown on the page and ended up that way, so a little bit more organic. And also because I'm intentionally trying to create a little bit of, or allow for a little bit of serendipity, right? A little bit of just the magic of what happens is what happens. And actually here, I'll put it on the back of the paper. And then there. And then we'll add some glue to our coin. And this is nice because it gives me a little bit of room here to do a tiny bit of journaling. And then I feel like I need some threads underneath of here. Let me grab, so I have these crinkly threads from my, when I was making the journal cover. So, and I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of put them here, and don't want them even though, so let me pull them apart. So again, I want them to just sort of feel a little bit organic. And then just to make it easier to glue down, I'm gonna knot this in the center, because then I can glue the knot, right, rather than trying to glue the whole thing. And put a little bit of, let the glue shift itself back down. This bottle's getting a little messy. I'm going to need to clean that off. And then we'll put that in there. There we go. And then I should have left that upside down. That's okay. Actually, I can use that to help glue it or clean it a bit. And then actually I probably should, in addition to that glue, I probably should put a dollop on top of the threads. Come on. Yeah, I definitely need to clean that. There. I'm liking that a bunch. Okay, so now I had thought about using this, but I'm thinking now I will not. You know what? I don't know that I want to use these anymore. I was originally thinking that I might. I do want to have enough room to do a little bit of journaling here, maybe add a quote or something. So I'm just gonna leave it. Sometimes I think you need to know when to quit, and so I think that is now. The last thing I need to do, as I always do in my journals, is I need to go ahead and add a label. So the prompt is coin, so I'll put the number 9 on there, and then just spell out the word coin. All right, so then we have the word coin, and let me decide where I want that. I think there, or do I want to tuck it inside of here? No, I don't like that. No, I'll just let it be down at the bottom. I'm not in love with how that looks incorporated into the cluster, so I'll just leave it out. We'll do it here though. All right. So quick and simple today, under 20 minutes. And I really do like the way that it looks with the other side. That's it for day 9 of Junk Journal July. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you got inspired by this video, and even more so, I hope that you make a great day. Bye.